Hello students. So, welcome back. Right now we have to explain the term substitutions effect in case of your normal commodities, inferior commodities and given commodities. And thereafter we also be explain simultaneously how price effect is to be decomposed into income effect and substitutions effect. Okay? Now, we already know what is price effect. Price effect means consumers equilibrium changes due to the change in price of the commodities. When the price of the commodity changes, that leads to consumers equilibrium changes, that is called as the price effect. Income effect means when consumer changes its equilibrium due to the change in money income of the commodities. कंज्यूमर जो मनी इनकम चेंज कर समय इक्विलिब्रियम जदि चेंजेस होची ताको हम कहूचे इनकम इफेक्ट जो प्राइस चेंज होची कंज्यूमर्स इक्विलिब्रियम चेंजेस करछंती सेतले हम कहूचे प्राइस इफेक्ट. नाउ व्हाट अबाउट द सब्स्टिट्यूशन इफेक्ट? Now, substitution effect means when the consumer changes its equilibrium, when the consumer alters its equilibrium due to the relative change in the price of the commodities. Either you are to compensating it or equal to equivalating it. In the both the cases in the last class we explained the term what is price effect, income effect and substitution effect. Right today I have to be explaining it how the price effect is the addition of your income effect and substitution effect. That means how price effect is to be decomposed into income effect and substitutions effect. And we have to explaining these things in case of your normal commodities, in case of your inferior commodities as well as in case of your let us say given type of commodities, right. All these things we have to explain one by one. Now, we start with same example, we take the terms let us say the consumer has money income as rupees 100. The two type of product we are assuming it, right. Those product is to be let us say the face. If you take the face is to be the superior one and your mango is to be the inferior, in those cases we have to explain one way and reversing it both to be the neutral one we can take into account, right, and assuming one to be the given, right. So, the price of face is given to be 10 rupees and the price of mango is to be given to you 2 rupees per unit. Now, considering these things, given concepts and the preferences of the consumer, we can explain the price line. In order to do that, we have to take face on the product X, let us say it is the good X, that is called the face on horizontal axis and mango on vertical axis. When money income and price of both the commodities are given, we can trace the price line as PL1, right, and given in preferences of the consumer of the both the commodities, as the given preference of the consumer of the both the commodity, that means the indifference map is given. This particular price line or the budget line or the budget constraint that tangent a specific indifference curve, let us say IC1 at a point let us say E1. Indifference curve IC1 tangent to the price line PL1 at the point E1, but never trace the indifference curve very beginning. प्रथमे indifference curve trace करिबो नहीं केबेले, even though inside the exam hall, because while you do that then you may come across some mistakes in the figure. So, in order avoiding those mistakes, please do not trace the indifference curve very beginning, but assuming it, yes, I know the price line is PL1 and that tangent to the indifference curve IC1 at the point E1. Okay. Now, when the price of X falls, that means the price of face falls. We take it right now, price of face is to be the better product as compared to the mango. Okay. Now, when the price of x falls, that is called the price of phase falls, then the price line move from P L to P L1 to P L2. Now, the price line move from P L1 to the P L2, and that tangent the indifference curve at the point E2. The tangent the higher indifference curve at the point E2. Now, we know the movement from E1 to E2, what happened to the E1 to E2. Now, you can explain the term E1 to E2, why the equilibrium changes due to the change in price of the commodities, and that is called as price effect. That is called as price effect. Now, if the increased real income, if the increased real income is to be withdrawn from the consumer, by the way of your compensating variation, so that the consumer obtain the old or initial level of satisfaction. In such a manner we have to withdrawing it, so that it obtain old or initial level of satisfaction. Therefore, what to do, in order to trace a new price line which would be parallel to the PL2, and in such a manner we have to draw it down way that tangent the new indifference, I mean old indifference curve. Let us say we take a parallel line to be here, right, this is called the GH line, and that tangent at the point E3. Now, we can trace the indifference curve, this is called the IC1 and this is your IC2, mark it clearly. Okay, this is the intersection point, but tangents is here, tangents is here, this is the tangency point, right. Now, initially equilibrium at E1, when price falls he moved to the point E2, that means E1 to E2, this particular gap is to be called as the price effect, the whole part is called the price effect. Let us say we take into account as AC, the whole area AC is to be known as your price effect. Now, when the increased real income is to be withdrawn from the consumer, so if you withdraw it, then the GH line is to be traced. If you are withdrawing the income, money income of the consumer, how much money income to withdraw? Now, increased real income from the consumer, and in such a manner we have to withdrawing the real income. Let us say for example, the price line GH which is to be tangent to the, I mean which is to be parallel to the PL2, as GH line parallel to the L2 PL2, therefore, the movement from E1 to E2 to E3, E2 to E3, that is called as income effect. Two parallel lines are there, tangency points are there, obviously that is called the income effect. And the movement from E1 to E3, that is the relative change in the price, E1 to E3 on the same indifference curve, movement on the same indifference curve, right, IC1, that is called as substitutions effect. তাহলে আমি কোন দেখিলে না E1 to E3, we can drop a perpendicular, let us say the point B, the AC part is called as the price effect, this to this is called as substitution effect, and this to this is called as income effect, right. So, what do you find here? The entire price effect is to be decomposed into substitutions and income effect. Here substitution effect is with the positive as well as your income effect with the positive, and therefore, the price effect is to be positive, right. So, that is the first case how the price effect is to be split into income and substitution effect with the help of your compensating variations. Okay. So, while you trace, first start with the given concept, then take the initial point of equilibrium, when price of x falls move to the next price line PL2, the tangent the higher indifference curve at the point E2, the movement from E1 to E2 is called as price effect. when increased real income is withdrawn from the consumer by the way of a compensating variation. Therefore, you have to trace the GH line which is parallel to the PL2 that tangent the old indifference curve at the point E3. The movement from E2 to E3 is called as income effect, and the movement from E1 to E3, the relative change in the price of the product X is to be known as your substitutions effect. So, the entire price effect is a break into income and substitutions effect. Now, after knowing it, we have to move to the next, how we have to explain. It is not so always the second point of equilibrium move to the right and below it. It may be any directions. I have to show you how it is so. Now, let us say here is the horizontal axis and the vertical axis. We take on the horizontal axis the face, and on the vertical axis it is your mango, and this is the initial price line that is called the PL1. Okay. Now, when price of fish falls, then the price line shift from PL1 to PL2. Let us say if you take the initial point of equilibrium here E1, right now what you find, we take the previous case, the equilibrium at the point E2 is here in the previous figure, just to the right and below it. If you take it is the perpendicular and the back of it, then it is called the Giffen type of commodities. If in this side, if you take this one, let the point E2, then good X to be treated as the inferior one, or it is called the Giffen type of product. That means price fall kare तार consumption हमें कमी दौचे. एटी कौन करची ना price तो extra fall करची हमें consumption अधिक नौचे. This is your, let's say, superior type of product. This is your Giffen type of product. This to this it to be normal type of product. That means both the products are normal. That means X, that is the both the price of X fall kara, that is the price of X fall korche, fish fall korche, kintu we have to purchase both the products. If you purchase the both the products, then in that case here we take into account the inferior one. X टा inferior होचे, price of X fall कले आमे ताको अधिक किणुनी, ताको आमे कम किणुचे market. If you purchase in between that means what it reflect, that the X increase करची simultaneously Y भी increase करची. I mean the point नहीं जिवा, let's say point E2 is here, what do you find, X increase करची Y भी increase, mango consumption अधिक होची, fish consumption भी अधिक होची, but एठी कौन होची ए particular point रे mango consumption fall करची, fish consumption increase करची. Mango consumption fall करची, fish consumption increase करची. Therefore we take the Giffen type of product. Good X to be treated as the Giffen type of product. Here if you take into account this one, both the product be increases. X increase करची, Y भी increase करची. यदि Y increase कला, in that case X को importance से दौनी बेसी increase करची, but एती important. Therefore we take the inferior one, or both to be taken as the normal type of products. But if you take into account, if the price of X falls, he try to consume less unit of Y and more unit of X. In that case, X to be treated as the superior type of product, or X to be treated as the normal and Y to be treated as the inferior product. Okay. So, considering that, we have to explain the term how the price effect is to be decomposed into income and substitution effect. In previous figure, we explained the term by taking the E2 to be here. Right now, we take the E2 to be here, and thereafter next figure we have to explain at the point E2 to be here. Okay. Let us start with it. Here we take the face, this side is to be your mango. Initially the price line is to be PL1. Now when the price of X falls, I mean that the price of fish falls, the consumers move from PL1 to the PL2, and initially the consumer is the equilibrium at the point E1. Right now we take the point equilibrium as E2, right. The movement from E1 to E2, that is called as price effect. The movement from E1 to E2 is known as price effect. and here we can draw the perpendicular, let us say A, we can draw the perpendicular, this is the point C. Now, if the increased real income withdrawn from the consumer, if the increased real income is to be the withdrawn from the consumer so as to obtain older initial level of satisfaction, right, or we can explaining it, so let us say subsequent level of satisfaction, let us say instead of your compensating variation we have to explain in the equivalent variation case. Let us say have to be if the increased real income the grant to the consumer in such a manner to be parallelly shifted upway, so that the consumer try to consume at the higher indifference curve. Anyway, I can be compensating it. If you are compensating it in such a manner, you have to draw the parallel line, it should be like this way. Okay, like this way we draw the parallel line. Okay, which should be tangent at this particular point. But if you take the upward direction, it will be price line PL1 shifted upway, that to be price line to be like this way. It will be tangent around in this particular segment. Any direction you can take, either the compensating variation or equivalent variation, choice is yours. Let us have to be explain the compensating case. Now we have to draw the parallel line like this. This is your GH line. Okay. Now, if you draw the indifference curve like this, here is the point of the tangency. I say 1, this is the point E3, this is the point E2, I say 2. Initially the consumer is equilibrium at the point E1, when price falls he moved to the point E2, that is called the price effect. But increased real income it will withdrawn from the consumer, so as to compensating it back to the consumer, when they drag to the consumer to the old indifference curve. That means the movement from E1 to E3, E2 to E3, that is your income effect. E2 to E3, mark it here, income effect is to be come down to be here, this is the point B, right, and this to this is your income effect, and the whole area E1 to E3 on the same indifference curve, E1 to E3, that is your substitution effect, E1 to E3 substitution effect, but E1 to E2 this to this is your price effect, right. Now, price effect is less than the substitution effect. Why it is so? Because your income effect is negative. Right now, your income effect is to be negative, substitution effect is the positive, but the net result the positive price effect. The price effect it will be positive, and that is so because the negative income effect is to be less than the positive substitution effect. Therefore, this is the case of your what type of product? Inferior type of product, right. That means, in this case good X to be treated as the fish to be treated as the inferior type of product, therefore, we find negative income effect, but positive substitution effect is there. Positive substitution effect is more than the negative income effect, therefore, the price effect is positive. So, that is the case how price effect it will break into income and substitution effect in case of your compensating variations also. We can show it with the equivalent variation, no doubt, but the choice is your, no need to explain in the both the direction inside the exam, you have to explain any one of it. Okay. Move to the next part, the last one for your Giffen type of product. If you take the Giffen type of product, in that case let us say we take this is the phase, and assuming it is not necessary the fish and mango or anyone will be treated as the Giffen or the inferior one, we just assuming it, right. Given price of the fish and mango and money income of the consumer is equilibrium at a particular point where the price line PL1 tangent to the indifference curve. Now, if the price of X falls, then the price line PL1 move to the PL2. Okay. Initially, the point of equilibrium is to be here, Right now the point of equilibrium is to be here. Okay, it is the back of it. That means if you take the price effect, here the price effect is turns to be negative 1. Price effect is to be negative from E1 to E2, that is your price effect. That price effect is negative, means upward sloping demand curve. Price effect is negative to be here, right. Now, if the increase, that means the price falls, price of X falls, therefore, the price line PL1 shift to the PL2, the consumer's equilibrium is from E1 to E2, that is called the price effect, as you know. If the increased real income is to be withdrawn from the consumer, if the increased real income is to be withdrawn from the consumer, so that it obtain the old or initial level of satisfaction. Right now, we have to trace the price line in such a way, that is the GH line, in such a way that tangent the old indifference curve at the point, let us say E3, and the movement from E1 to E3, that is a substitution effect. Substitution effect is always positive, right, but this to this is your what happened, this to parallel line, this to parallel line where the indifference curve IC2 tangent parallel to the PL2, which is to be parallel to the GH line where the indifference curve IC1 tangent at the point E3. The movement from E2 to E3, that is called as the income effect, E2 to E3, and which is to be negative 1, which is to be negative 1, that is the BC amount, that is called the income effect. But the negative income effect is to be here, but substitution effect is always positive, E1 to E3, that is the substitution effect. Okay. The substitution effect, the positive substitution effect is less than the negative income effect. As the positive substitution effect is less than the negative income effect, due to that the price effect turns to be negative 1. Okay. So, here also we can show the term how the price effect is to be decomposed into income and substitution effect. Okay. So, what we conclude, that it is not so that always the price effect to be positive, price effect it may be negative, may be positive, depending upon the comparison between the negative income effect with the positive substitution effect. In case of a given type of products, negative income effect is greater than the positive substitution effect, therefore, the price effect turns to be negative. But in case of an inferior type of product, positive substitution effect is greater than the negative income effect, therefore, the price effect to be positive. And in case of the normal type of commodities, then in that case both price effect is to be positive, it is so because substitution effect as well as your income effect both are positive. So, in this pattern we have to explain the whole concept, what is price effect, income effect and substitution effect, and thereby how the price effect is to be decomposed into income and substitutions effect. Okay. So, this is all about the term what is called the price effect, income effect and substitution effect, and how the price effect is to be break into income and substitution effect. In the coming class, we have to start with the term how the demand curve is to be derived from the price consumption curve. Again, the demand curve we have to derive for your normal commodities, inferior commodities and given type of commodities. And thereafter the last concept we have to explain how the rate of interest is related to the consumption level, I mean the saving rate of comparison between the rate of interest and consumption, and similarly we have to take into account the relationship between the wage rate along with the compensation and the consumption with the wage rate. So, these two things are left of this particular module we have to complete in the coming class. Okay. For that reasons, thank you for right now. Thank you.